Hincapié, they can partially clear it, don't get too far though, it didn't come as far as Bukayo Saka. Ruiz has got it back for Paris here. Vitinha pressing and probing, a little more prolonged period of Parisian possession with Desiré Doué. Mosquera squaring up to him, Saka helping out defensively as well, and they do double up on Doué, and Saka is the one who comes away with the ball. Arsenal have it back, albeit still deep inside their own territory. Declan Rice is the out ball for Mosquera, and they're required. That one up towards Saliba. Bit of work for him to do, facing his own goal again. Back to David Raya. And this is where Paris are just upping the intensity of the press.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, Phil, because Arsenal are playing this at a nice tempo for them. They're making it tough for Paris. They're pressuring the man on the ball at all times. And even when they don't have the ball, Arsenal, what they're doing is they're getting Saka to really double up with Mosquera. Anytime that ball goes anywhere near the left flank for Paris, Saka is across to double up with Mosquera, because he knows that that's an area he prefers to be more centrally, centre-back really. So he's filling in on that right-hand side. Saka's coming to help him every single time.
Then White out injured. Knee problem picked up against West Ham, and Jurrien Timber hasn't played since March. He's missed the last 14 games, although he's fit and on the bench. Not risked, understandably, from the start in that context in a match of this magnitude. Paris, though, have gone with both of their fit again fullbacks. Achraf Hakimi and Nuno Mendes both missed the end of the Liga season. Hakimi up against Hincapié. That must have been a close call, Hincapié and Calafiori at left back.
I think in the first 20 minutes we've seen why he made that call, because Hincapié is such an aggressive defender, and already he's won a few challenges out there against Hakimi or Doué. Every time they're trying to get down that right-hand side, he's locking it down. Calafiori is a good defender, don't get me wrong, but he's more of a two-way guy. He can be comfortable in possession, bring it forward, move into midfield. Hincapié is more of a runner with the ball, but he is a classic aggressive defender, and that's why he's on that left-hand side today.
Huge occasion for him on loan from Leverkusen. That move becomes permanent this summer for Piero Hincapié, the Ecuadorian international, a former teammate actually briefly at Independiente Valle of William Pacho at the heart of the Paris Saint-Germain defence. It's the holders who try and advance into Arsenal territory again here with 20 minutes on the clock in the Champions League final. Arsenal leading by a goal to nil. Marquinhos working it wider for Desiré Doué, back on that right-hand side for Paris. Little touch for Vitinha. Has just overhit that one a fraction. It will carry for David Raya, but the danger and comes to collect.
This is what happens sometimes when Arsenal make it so hard for a team. Everything feels like a stretch. So normally Vitinha would nail that ball over the top, but because he's having to be so precise to open this Arsenal team up, you end up forcing things and you end up trying things that you wouldn't normally try. So it's been a really good start from Arsenal. They've got the goal, they look comfortable defensively, and Paris are having to really think of solutions at the moment. Still early days, still plenty of time for Paris to turn that around, but Arsenal could not have made a better start to this final.
Very encouraging signs for Arsenal in this opening quarter. 21.5 minutes played. Paris 0, Arsenal 1. Kai Havertz with the early goal, the only goal so far. Only the third player ever to score in 2 UEFA Champions League finals for 2 different clubs, following Cristiano Ronaldo and Mario Mandzukic in doing that. His goal the difference here as the whistle goes against Piero Hincapié.
It's good company, that, isn't it?
Pretty esteemed company, isn't it? That Havertz is keeping. He got the goal in 2021. It proved to be the winner for Chelsea against Manchester City. A long way to go if that is to be the case again, some 5 years down the line. 3rd season at the club for Havertz since he made that cross-London move. In front, though, against the reigning French and European champions. Ousmane Dembele is the target here. Does get something on it, just helping it on with his head to Kvaratskhelia wide left. Mosquera is with him. Kvaratskhelia still looking for options, shimmying one way and then the other, trying to link with Fabian Ruiz, but Mosquera was having none of it. He intervenes, and then his clearance was a little unfortunate that it hit Fabian Ruiz, but it will be an Arsenal ball, and he did pretty much everything he could do in that situation, Mosquera.
There again, Phil, having to force it, having to try the back flick, having to find a way through that block, because Saka, again, wasn't there immediately, but was there in time to help out Mosquera. And that doubling up in wide areas is going to be so important for Arsenal if they're going to deal with that wide threat that Paris posed. So it's an interesting conundrum, this, for Luis Enrique, because it's going to be about opening up those spaces. Because the one thing we know Arsenal won't do, they won't open up. They won't make it a basketball game. They will play at a tempo. They won't slow it down completely, but they won't overreach. They won't get out of that block. So it's down to Paris to have the initiative to find a way through.
As they so often do, of course. Got a drinks break at the moment, midway through the first half of the final here. So just a little period of reflection. Arsenal leading since that Kai Havertz goal, with a shade over 5 minutes on the clock. A super start that Arsenal have built upon, really, in the way that they've been able to approach it. But Mikel Arteta will know just how much work his side still have to do. But they will take belief, won't they, by how this has begun. They weren't short of it anyway after the week or two that they've had. The momentum that they built since that loss against Manchester City in the Premier League. They've won all but one game since then. They've been unbeaten since then. After 22 years, they've ended their wait for the Premier League title. They come here with belief, with hope. And we're seeing, I think, in the way that the opening quarter has unfolded, just how that's translated to what they're producing on the pitch.
And the perfect way to settle yourselves down is to get that early goal. That was absolutely huge for them psychologically, because Paris are the team that's done it. They did it last year. Paris are the team that has that trophy. So for Arsenal to score so early, and as we've said, they love to be the front runners. They know how to see a game out. So this has been the perfect start for them. But what's impressed me is that it hasn't just been attack against defence. They are actually trying to inject a bit of pace into the game. So they're not taking risks, but they're also not just sitting there waiting to be picked off. So it's been a really good start from them.
Back underway here, 25 minutes played at the Puskás Arena. Mikel Arteta insisting that winning the Premier League hasn't taken the pressure off there. It's no free hit for them. What it has done is provide the platform to aim for more. The ambition, he says, has to be bigger.
I think that's a really important point, because that would be the temptation to slip into that and think, well, this is just a bonus. It absolutely is.
And here they come with Bukayo Saka taking the pass from Martin Ødegaard. Saka down the right-hand side, delivers the cross low. Safonov comes, gets something on it to turn it away from immediate trouble, at some cost perhaps to the goalkeeper here, because Matvei Safonov has stayed down, and with the suspicion of a head injury, Daniel Supat, the referee, has to step in. But that was really threatening from Arsenal.
That's a great ball in, because it forces the goalkeeper to do something. Marquinhos is moving towards it. Safonov, if he doesn't get there, Trossard's going to at least have an effort on goal. So it's a really good stretch from the goalkeeper. Brave had to get there. It's a super ball in from the right-hand side, and a clever run by Trossard as well.
He did just get his glove to it first, did Safonov, but then took a bit of a blow in the collision with Trossard that followed, and the goalkeeper has stayed down. Now, of course, the only change to this Paris side from the final last year was in goal, with Donnarumma departing in the summer. Initially, of course, it was Lucas Chevalier that came in as first choice. Lost his place to Safonov halfway through this season. He's had injury issues recently as well as Lucas Chevalier, but he is back on the bench today, and he's waiting now to see if he might be required, because there is some concern over Paris's Russian goalkeeper.
Yeah, as I say, he was brave to dive at the feet, and he did get caught there, Safonov. And Chevalier is an interesting one, because he was brought in with Luis Enrique saying, we're looking for a different profile. We're looking for somebody who's maybe a little bit more adept with the ball at their feet. And that's a big part of Paris's build-up play. But as you say, he lost his form first. He made a couple of errors and then got some injuries. And Safonov, this is always the case with goalkeepers. You know, the backup goalkeeper, when they get the chance, they have to take it. He saved 4 penalties, didn't he, in that Intercontinental final, which Paris ended up winning. And since taking that chance, he's held on to the gloves and has done a super job. And it's that kind of moment, actually, that brave goalkeeping there, that has kept him in the position.
Chevalier hasn't featured in the Champions League since the defeat at Sporting on match day 7 in the league phase. He wasn't in the squad for any of the last 4 games of the Ligue 1 season because of a hamstring injury. Past fit to feature on the bench today and still waiting to find out if he's going to be needed here. Safonov remains down, is still receiving treatment. Luis Enrique is waiting for word on the touchline as well. He's also taking the chance to impart some further instruction and observations to his players. It looks a bit more promising now for Safonov. He's back on his feet. He's still in consultation with the medical staff, but it does appear that he's going to be okay to carry on.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're going through all the protocols, just checking that he's absolutely okay. You have to take this extra time when it's any kind of head injury. And he, as I say, he's a goalkeeper that is unorthodox in some of the things he does in terms of coming for aerial balls and, you know, sometimes punches when other goalkeepers would look to catch, but it's been largely effective. And in terms of his shot stopping, there was a game against Lens, who've been Paris's closest challengers in Ligue 1. He made 8 saves in that game. It was one of the best individual goalkeeping performances in French football this season. So he's got the skills, he's got the quality. He was known as a rising star when he was younger. He's had to go the long way round, but here he is in the Champions League final.
His debut in the competition actually came for the Russian Premier League side. Krasnodar is in his 2nd season with Paris. He was unused, wasn't he, on the bench in the final last season. He is okay for now to carry on. They'll keep a very close eye on his situation in the next few minutes, but play is back underway. Paris 0, Arsenal 1 on UEFA Champions League match day live. Paris in possession with Willian Pacho. Finding Nuno Mendes to his left. Kavaric's failure a little further forward, just drifting in from that left touchline towards Nuno Mendes, who is on the charge, and he needs no second invitation in these sort of circumstances. Now Ousmane Dembele taking over wide on that right-hand side, dancing into the Arsenal penalty area. He has support from Hakimi. Vitinha was calling for it as well. Dembele's got it back again, though, still on the corner of the box. Marshalled by Trossard. Havertz helping out defensively as well to restrict the passing options here for Paris in this position. Dembele again has got 3 in the middle. It's met by Gabriel when the cross came in. His header clears it away partially. Vitinha taking a touch though. Willian Pacho. Nuno Mendes has stayed down in the penalty area, but Paris are playing on in the meantime with Desiré Doué. He looks in some trouble actually, Nuno Mendes, but Paris still have it in advanced territory, hence the fact they are content to continue with Achraf Hakimi. Back down the line he goes to Dembele on that left boot, dinks it in towards the run of João Neves. They've worked it well here. Possible penalty appeals. The challenges are flying in before Nkapie can clear. He did so decisively. And still Nuno Mendes, amongst all of that, hasn't yet gone back to his feet, having gone down originally, and then a couple more went down, didn't they, in that frantic passage of play that followed.
Yeah, that was really intriguing, actually, because the referee got it right. Unless he thinks the player's in danger or, as you've already mentioned, a head injury, he's under no compulsion to stop it. It's down to Paris if they feel they want to put that ball out, but Paris carried on. It was a clash, seemingly, between him and one of the centre-backs. It was a good challenge that on Doué, by the way, on the follow-up, but it was a clash initially between Nuno Mendes, just a coming together between him and one of the Arsenal centre-backs, but then on the follow-up, that challenge on Doué was very clean and necessary because Doué had made that little surge into the box. Haven't seen Doué in too many dangerous areas. He's had some nice touches, nice ideas. We always see that from him. We haven't seen that special moment from him yet, and that's down to Arsenal not opening up those gaps.
One of the stars of the show of last year's final in Munich, of course, Desiré Doué, with those 2 goals. They were 2-0 in front by this stage a year ago. Different story this time around as David Raya is forced to come to the edge of his penalty area just to get to that long ball forward first. Dembele, we're in the last few minutes or so. That's where he has been primarily operating. That will continue to evolve, of course, as the game goes on. Well used to that in the way that they play. Nuno Mendes back in field here. to Vitinha. Everything still in front of him. Achraf Hakimi is to his right. Dembele is wide on that right-hand side, just in from the touchline. Nkapie can't prevent him from dinking the ball into the box, but there are plenty in red in the way when it does get that far. It's out as far as Marquinhos. Now Vitinha again in a central position, marshalled by Martin Ødegaard, back doing his defensive duties. That's going to be required of all the Arsenal players today, and how they will be well aware and ready, I'm sure, to assume that responsibility. It's certainly been the case so far. Nearly 33 minutes in, defending here with real discipline and diligence as Paris press and probe. This is likely to be a familiar theme. Certainly the scoreline stays as it is. They're dominating the ball are the holders right now, but struggling to find a way through. Here's Dembele trying to change that. Lays it off to Kvaratskhelia wide on the right. Hakimi as well joining in with that attack. Ousmane Dembele now twisting and turning. Couldn't get the shot away, then tried to improvise a little bit and lofted into the middle, but it carries through for David Raya to come and claim it.
It's quite nice though, because he set up the space with that little fake. Going to shoot, actually just stopping and then just lifting it into the box. So the right idea, not quite the right execution.
And they come again. Desiree Doué down that right-hand side. Again, Trossard's gone with him to try and help out Nkapie. It comes off the Ecuadorian. It's blocked behind for the Paris corner.
It's really fascinating, actually, because you've got an Arsenal team that's so good in this situation, that deep block, just saying, OK, can you find a way through us? And then Paris just trying lots of little things to break through.
Not hanging around over the set pieces either. Another corner taken short. Nuno Mendes will deliver into the danger area, cleared by Declan Rice this time. Saka trying to bring it down, is put under pressure by Nuno Mendes. Very deliberately trying to keep the tempo high here, Paris, aren't they?
That was brilliant from Declan Rice, because he read the danger really well, because it looked for all the world as though Nuno Mendes was actually going to shoot from range, but Declan Rice wasn't buying that, and he came across on the cover to get rid of that cross. That was excellent work.
A super season that Declan Rice has had at the heart of the Arsenal midfield. Defence coming under pressure again, though. Saliba is there first, just reaching it ahead of Dembele to clear it into touch over on that far side, the Paris right, where Hakimi will take the throw quickly back down the touchline. Desiree Doué leaving it for his captain Marquinhos. Now Hakimi again on the charge infield, marshalled by Nkapie, who went with him and predictably is giving him very little room in which to work. Nuno Mendes trying to touch that off into a more central position for João Neves. Again, there just wasn't quite the space for the ball that was intended. And here come Arsenal with Bukayo Saka. Shoulder charged by Nuno Mendes. Saka takes a tumble on the touchline, and Parisian frustrations grow as Arsenal get the decision.
Yeah, frustration's the word at the moment, because they're not finding a way through in attack, and then they're finding it difficult to get to Arsenal when they've got the ball, and Nuno Mendes doesn't need to make that challenge. Saka's not really going anywhere, but he's overzealous and he moves in and just shoves him over, and Paris just need to take a breath here at the moment, because Arsenal have had a fantastic first half so far.
They've got themselves this free kick in a useful position, just in from the right touchline. Declan Rice is waiting to take it. It affords Arsenal the opportunity to swing this directly into the danger area again. Gabriel is an obvious target up from the back. Saliba, his central defensive colleague, in there as well. There are 5 or 6 Arsenal players on the move in the middle as it comes in from Rice. And it ends up behind, clash of heads as well, I think, and the decision is going to go against Gabriel, who had to challenge the reach. That Fabian Ruiz was the Paris player who went down, back to his feet, clutching his ribs. And the referee had a good view of it to step in, but it was off target from Arsenal anyway, but another indication of what could be, what might be from positions like that.
Well, that's a couple of moments now when Gabriel's had a free run onto the ball, and the foul had actually happened before then.
Space now, though, for Paris Saint-Germain. The charge is led by Vitinha here. He has options either side. Ousmane Dembele takes over, takes on the shot, left-footed, big block that comes in from Gabriel. It didn't quite fall for João Neves, so Trossard is able to get further purchase on the clearance up towards halfway, and Havertz. And now Leandro Trossard again, outnumbered though, battling for the loose ball 2-1. Trossard not giving up on that before going to ground. No free kick forthcoming for him though. It's Desiree Doué instead, and now he finds himself very isolated. About 4 or 5 Arsenal players in the immediate vicinity, and Doué perhaps understandably, given those odds, couldn't find a way through.
Yeah, he did the first bit right. He managed to hold off the challenge and keep on going, but there was just no option for him.
Saliba, who brings it out beautifully from the back, shows fine footwork and then plays the pass for Kai Havertz. He didn't have a lot of space to work in against Hakimi, but has done well to find Nketiah. Trossard further forward is marshalled by Marquinhos, just in from the left touchline as Arsenal advance. Now Miles Lewis-Skelly in midfield, shoulder to shoulder with João Neves. What a battle that is, the 21-year-old against the 19-year-old. Such key roles for those two in midfield today. Arsenal go back to David Raya. His clearance out to the far side. The Arsenal left just a little bit too much on it for Nketiah to be able to keep that one in play, or to do anything with it at least. But this is fairly frantic fare as we head towards half-time.
Regardless of the goal that Havertz scored, I think we've just seen why he's in this team ahead of Gyökeres, because there was a moment when he was in a tight space, back to goal, kept possession, managed to bring a teammate in. Gyökeres' game is different. He wants the ball in front of him, wants to run onto it, wants to run those channels. Havertz in a tight space, able to keep the ball, and that's what Mikel Arteta, I believe, wanted. He wanted somebody who could be an outlet and keep possession. The bonus is scored an early goal and took it very well.
That is quite some bonus, isn't it? That's the Arsenal advantage that remains intact, but Paris are doing plenty in pursuit of parity here. Level with the edge of the Arsenal penalty area once more. They go back a few paces to Vitinha. Now Marquinhos, he's deep in Arsenal territory as well. The captain up from centre-back, William Pazzo, not far behind him either. It's all currently being played in the Arsenal half. This is Marquinhos again. Desiré Doué wide on that right-hand side. Trossard is backtracking, trying to prevent the cross from coming in, but he is able to deliver it, was Doué. Mosquera couldn't quite clear when it came his way, so it reaches Kvaratskhelia. Now Nuno Mendes, he sent it into the penalty area, where it's met by Gabriel. So often already he's been the one on the end of those.
He's been phenomenal so far, Phil. He's been making blocks, he's been making headed clearances. What Arsenal do without the ball isn't sorcery. It's a 4-4-2 block, but the discipline is the thing that marks it out, because the way Mikel Arteta has drilled this group of players, they all know exactly when to move, when to pressure the man on the ball, when to shuffle across, when to back each other up. It's really impressive coaching. It's something that's been done before, but it takes something really special to do it to this kind of level.
And they're still doing it here as we head towards the final 5 minutes of the first half, although there'll be a bit to add on beyond that. Of course, 20 years ago, they led until the 76th minute, didn't they, in Paris against Barcelona, although they played much of that with 10 after the sending off of their goalkeeper Jens Lehmann, famously. Arsenal did lead by a 1-0 in that game. They're attempting to become today the 25th different club to win this trophy. And they would be the second new winners in succession after Paris last season. They have this slender lead. It's looking more and more likely that they might be able to take that into half-time and then reassess, we shall see. But thus far the game plan has been followed with precision by those in red. And Paris, despite plenty of the possession, I think nearly 3/4 of the ball in this first half, still haven't really managed to threaten too significantly with it. That could change here if Dembele can reach it on the edge of the box. It came instead for Hakimi just beyond him. He tried to score it along the edge of the penalty area. Nobody could quite reach that for Paris, but they do win the ball back with Vitinha still inside the Arsenal half of the field here. João Neves working it wider. Desiré Doué back into the feet of João Neves once more. Still the only shot on target in this final was the Kai Havertz goal, just 5 minutes into it. Paris have yet to manage one. All that possession has yielded just 2 attempts at goal so far in the game, and for that Arsenal can take huge credit.
Yeah, that's the key. And you mentioned Hakimi a few moments ago playing that ball and there was nobody there. That's the kind of thing he wouldn't normally do, wouldn't normally force it, but he's trying just to play that first time, find a teammate. Normally get that ball down and assess the options and maybe drive, but Arsenal are making it so tough for them just to do the basic things at the moment in attack.
They've shown all season, the Gunners, haven't they? They are no ordinary side, certainly defensively underpinning this challenge for European club football's greatest prize that has always eluded them so far. Fabian Ruiz for Paris, for whom the same applied until a year ago. Looking to build on the belief from that victory in Munich against Inter. Very different type of final 12 months on. Here is Kvarat's failure for Paris in a central position, edge of the penalty area. So many red shirts in the way, though. So the opportunity to go for goal did not materialise. Nuno Mendes in front of Mosquera, gets to the byline, flashes it in. Hasn't yet been dealt with, and then Fabian Ruiz with a header. It came at him quickly. He couldn't quite control it. Wide it goes. But there was a bit more menace at the end of that from Paris Saint-Germain. Nearly some reward for their patient pressure as they suddenly just went up a gear or two.
Really smart from Nuno Mendes, because what he does is he draws Mosquera in and then goes again, and then he's able to get that ball. And David Raya has just had a big go at Piero Hincapié, because he said you cannot clear it back across our own goal, that has to go out. But because the ball was driven at such pace, Hincapié couldn't really get out of the way of it, and all he could do was pop the ball up, and then Fabian Ruiz couldn't hit the target. But that all comes from Nuno Mendes exposing Mosquera one-on-one. He's not been able to do that too often in this first half.
Well, I'm sure very much have been part of Luis Enrique's game plan. We've seen why on that occasion, but yes, it has taken a while, hasn't it? It might offer that little bit more encouragement to the holders, though, as a potential route to parity.
The thing we know about Mosquera is that he's not going to do what Jurrien Timber does, which is make these underlapping runs and cause all kinds of problems in attack. But he's a defender, and we know that he's strong, and we know that he can play one-on-one. But when you're up against Nuno Mendes, it's tough to be perfect all the time.
William Pacho just reaching what looked for a moment to be a loose ball in front of his own penalty area. He was able to get his boot to it ahead of Bukayo Saka and potentially turn defence into attack for Paris here. Kvarat's failure now wide on the left-hand side up towards the edge of the penalty area, drifting back infield as he does so dangerously. Marquinhos taking the pass from him and finding Ousmane Dembele on the edge of the box. Dembele looking to bend one on the left foot, just got underneath it though, and it very comfortably clears the crossbar.
Seen plenty of those flying to the top corner. He's capable, and he found that pocket of space and he just couldn't quite hit the target. But Paris are starting to up the tempo here. They're starting to have these moments where in these one-on-one battles they're just opening up a little bit of space, and that will be encouraging. But they are going to have to take more risks as the game wears on. Arsenal at the moment will be very, very comfortable with the position that they're in.
Final minute of the first 45 before we find out from Sandro Scherer of Switzerland, the fourth official, how much added time there will be at the end of this first period. Paris Saint-Germain 0, Arsenal 1. It has been that way since the 6th minute of the match. Leandro Trossard for Arsenal here in midfield, trying to loft it forward, looking for Saka. Kvarat's failure was back defending. And we will have 6 additional minutes, so the first half is far from finished. Had that lengthy stoppage, didn't we, when Safonov, the goalkeeper, was down. 1 or 2 other little breaks in play as well, so the first half extended further. 6 additional minutes. Paris 0, Arsenal 1. Time maybe for the holders to change the mood, mix up the narrative heading into the interval if they can get themselves a goal. But the way that Arsenal have approached this thus far, that's a big if at the moment. Safonov's come a long way out of his penalty area here to meet the high ball, and did so decisively with his head to get his team back on the front foot, back in the Arsenal half of the field with João Neves. A little bit of movement ahead of him, but again very predictably and very frequently, as we've seen, so many Arsenal shirts blocking the route to further progress up towards the penalty area, where Kvarat's failure now goes in field and finds Vitinha in the centre of the pitch, about 30 metres from goal, just shifting it to his right for Ousmane Dembele. Declan Rice is with him on the edge of the penalty area, in towards João Neves though, trying to find Dembele. Has to be so precise. Hincapié getting a foot in as well. Lewis Skelly trying to clear. Arsenal just about do get it away. Once more it was Gabriel taking care of business, but Paris will come again. They've got it back still inside the Arsenal half. Nuno Mendes to Kvarat's failure. Rich run of form he's been in the knockout stages of this competition. 7 of his 10 Champions League goals this season have come in the knockout stages, and here come Paris ending this first half strongly. Desiré Doué towards the edge of the box. Marquinhos will shift it to his left for Vitinha. Martin Ødegaard is in his way. Doué's going to take the shot on. Left-footed snapshot really from just outside the box, slightly to the right of centre, but again it's off target. It's just gone wide. And the Arsenal supporters celebrate that one sailing into the stands almost as much as they did the early goal, because they're Side is showing the other side of their game now, as they need to do at the moment. These are important moments, aren't they, in the final?
Yeah, they're finding these pockets of space a little bit more readily now, but every time when the ball's in the penalty area in a tight space, Gabriel's coming in with the challenge, or Capier's coming in with the challenge, or Saliba's there's always an Arsenal player there to clear the ball. But just in the last 5 minutes or so, Paris have started opening up some pockets that weren't there before.
And a flick from Saka at the other end as Arsenal try and give the holders something more to think about in that part of the pitch. Mosquera joining in, Ødegaard slipping it through, Havertz on the left foot, and the challenge came in from Marquinhos to take this thing out of the situation, because just for a split second it looked like Kai Havertz was in behind again and maybe expecting to score again. Marquinhos just got back to him in time and it looped up for Safanov to come and collect, but that was close.
Yeah, it's a critical block because Havertz was letting fly there, looking for that far corner, and Marquinhos using all of his experience. We've seen moments from him time and time again in the knockout phase where he's had goal line clearances or last-ditch challenges. He's excelled in that, uses all of his experience, just snuff out the danger. Excellent from him.
Certainly relied on their skipper again on that occasion, so it stays at 1-0 to the Arsenal halfway through stoppage time in this first half. Dembele is looking for the run of Hakimi. Well, major moments in front of goal for Kai Havertz at the start and the end of this first half.
They worked it really well, that chance for Havertz. It was a great block.
Paris looking to take the corner quickly again, but the referee not happy here, and you'll see but stepping in, and he wants a word. And I think Fabian Ruiz and David Raya before allowing the corner to be delivered. A couple of minutes of stoppage time to play at the end of this first period in the final in Budapest. Here it comes then from the right-hand side, taken by Dembele, headed clear by Saliba as far as Nuno Mendes. Touch or two for Vitinha, again in that central position. Vitinha back wide for Fabian Ruiz, in space to take it down on the chest, and then flashes left boot across the ball, where at the second attempt David Raya is able to hold it and to thwart his compatriot. Arsenal will have been a little concerned at the space that Fabian Ruiz briefly had found himself in. Yeah,
the space was there for him. It was always going to be a tough angle for Fabian Ruiz, but he cuts across it really nicely. And because there's so much spin on the ball, it's difficult for David Raya to take it cleanly. But luckily for Arsenal, there was nobody moving in from a Paris perspective to snaffle the rebound. But at least a meaningful effort on target for Paris there.
Raya hoping to make history as the first goalkeeper to reach 10 clean sheets in a Champions League season. If Arsenal can make their 10th shutout of the season, we now know it will be enough for glory, and it would equal the record that they themselves share. Actually, they also managed that in 2006. Here 1-0 is the advantage against Paris in the closing seconds of the first half at the Puskás Arena.
Just going back to that chance for Havertz, it was a lovely feather-like ball round the corner from Ødegaard that opened up that chance for Havertz, and obviously Marquinhos then is at full stretch. But that's where Ødegaard's at his best, when he's in that 10 role, playing those beautifully weighted passes through. It was a lovely ball to find Havertz.
He hasn't had the opportunity to play too many of them so far, and again, that's not really a surprise, but when he does, he can certainly make them count. And Martin Ødegaard, the Arsenal captain, providing further evidence of that. They have the throw here to Arsenal, level with the edge of the Paris penalty area. We know that Declan Rice can go long, and he does. Hurls it in towards the near post, where Havertz is challenging, as he is again up against William Pacho this time. Havertz looking towards the referee for a little more assistance. I think they will, perhaps, if there is time, have one final chance here, Arsenal, at the end of the half to get this in, because it did come off William Pacho down behind for the corner.
He's good in the air, Havertz. He's a threat. He forced Pacho to come across and deal with the danger there, and Arsenal with a golden opportunity here, because the way they threaten from corners, every time they get one, they are a real danger, and Saka's so good with these in-swingers from this side of the pitch.
Not not sure, is there actually going to be time to take it here? Saka was waiting to do so, but instead Daniel Siebert has blown the whistle. Maybe he thought he was taking a bit too long and has taken the players off the field. That is half-time in Budapest, so it's advantage Arsenal in the Champions League final. They hit the front early, just over 5 minutes in, when Kai Havertz scored what has proved to be the only goal so far. At the break in Budapest, it is Paris 0, Arsenal 1.
Remember to download the official Champions League podcast shortly after each match day using your favourite podcast provider. We'll bring you the highlights, analysis and reaction with our dedicated Matchday Live team.
Oh, well, what a first half for Arsenal, who are 45 minutes away now from winning the Champions League. Let's look over that first 45 minutes, shall we? And the goal came very early on, as you were reminding us there, Phil, and it came from some great work, fortuitous in some ways with the ricochet for Kai Havertz. But it was one of those moments where you're watching it thinking, he's going to lay it off. He's going to lay it off, surely. But no, he saw the opportunity. And it's one of those moments in a big game like this where if you see it, you've got to take it. And he did that exactly.
Well, he's used them as a decoy. He's used two players on the far post as a decoy. And that's just opened up the space because Pacho can't get back to him. Because Havertz, even though he's got this languid stride, he's quicker than you think. Because he really eats up the ground. And Pacho can't get to him. Nuno Mendes doesn't come across on the cover because he daren't, because he's got two on the far post to deal with. So then it just opens up, and the only place he can hit is the roof of the net, because anything lower and Safanov's going to save it. There's no angle there. So he's got to get his boot underneath the ball with pace to whip that into the roof of the net. It's a wonderful finish. It really is, from a guy who really is a top-level footballer.
It was just brilliant how he smashed it in from that tight angle, like you say. It was unstoppable, and Safanov is sort of rooted. He can't even move. It's so quick.
Well, as you say, Natalie, I was expecting him to square it to Saka. I think Safanov was probably expecting him to square it to Saka, but even regardless, there was no problem really with the goalkeeping positioning there. It was just that the glimpse of an opportunity that many players wouldn't even have thought about attempting, let alone take it on in a Champions League final, and to find a finish like that, it's exactly what Arsenal needed, what they would have dreamt about, to get the goal at that stage of the game. We talked right at the start how surely there would be a few nerves on display in the opening minutes, given everything that's at stake, regardless of the context of the season that they've had. To settle themselves down in that manner was marvellous for them, and it provided them with the opportunity to do what they do pretty much better than anybody else in Europe, as we've seen this season, with the way that they are able to defend and to hold on to an advantage. We've seen plenty of that already in what's followed in the first half, and much more I think will need to come in the second half.
They have been so well disciplined without the ball, Arsenal, Kev.
Yeah, they've only had 26% possession, but they don't care about that because they're comfortable in this defensive block. It's 4-4-2. You have Ødegaard and Havertz as the first line of it. The wide players move wide as you'd expect them to back up the fullbacks, and everybody knows when to jump, when to go, and it's beautifully drilled. I mean, we love a good 30-metre strike into the top corner, but I appreciate this kind of thing as well, because it takes so much effort from players, from the coaching staff to get that right. And Paris are having to force things, and they're having to work really, really hard just to create a shooting opportunity, just to create the things that would normally come really naturally to them. So it's a great challenge for them in the second half to find a way to turn this around, and if any team's up to that challenge, it's them. So that's the fascination of the second half.
They have, especially towards the end of this half, been probing, have sort of been crafting their way through. They've found some space. It's a question of whether or not Arsenal can sustain it, but also we know that the threat that Paris pose in their attacking options, that you can only assume that they'll find a way through. It's, of course, whether or not they can put it into the back of the net as well.
I think we've had a little glimpse, haven't we, of what is to come in the second half, with the way that Paris were able to find, I think, bit more extra edge and menace in the final third, in the last few minutes of the half. Not necessarily enough yet to trouble Arsenal, but they will have to step it up. They need to if it stays like this for too much longer. Maybe they take a few risks. They have real depth on the bench. I'm sure we'll probably see the likes of Bradley Barcola at some stage as well, but they certainly have enough attacking talent out on the field already to find a way. They're the top scorers in this competition this season. One more goal, they'll be the joint top scorers in the history of any Champions League season. That's what Arsenal are up against, and the longer it goes, you look at it from the other perspective, Arsenal might get edgy the closer they get to winning it for the very first time, the more that they may feel that weighing on their shoulders. I think they've probably shown enough to suggest that they will be able to deal with that. Whether they can deal with a Paris team in full flight, taking risks, chasing the game, it's going to be a fabulous second half, isn't it?
Mikel Arteta's choices have been vindicated so far. I think Nkapie's been outstanding on that left-hand side. He's been crunching into challenges. He's been making it tough for Hakimi to get any kind of momentum on that side. I think you look at the way that Lewis Skelly has really risen to the occasion. He's getting in there, he's blocking off passing lanes, making it tough. Havertz has obviously got the goal. Trossard's doing a really good job on that side, just doubling up. And it's his block on the clearance from Marquinhos that spins into the direction of Havertz for the goal, so he played his part in that as well.
So we are nearing the end of this season's competition, but the Champions League began back in September, and what a season it has been.
And so it begins. 9 months of the best club football on the planet. The journey to see who will be crowned champions of Europe.
Shoots right-footed, oh my goodness! That's as explosive a goal as you'll see. Early ball into the penalty area, Ramos has turned it in! Can you believe it? The European champion strike right at the end!
Sema's delivery, it is 1-0. A landmark night for Paphos. Their first ever win in the Champions League.
At the halfway point, 3 teams have shown their pedigree with perfect starts to their campaign.
Oh, Neuer's come out of goal, Martinelli's gone round him. It's an open net, and Martinelli scores for Arsenal. Arsenal with a 2-goal advantage are going to make this 5 wins out of 5.
Now Esteban to take on Kubasi, and he's away from him. Balde in support. Oh, but he's lashed it in. That is absolutely brilliant from Esteban.
Welcome to the final night of this season's league phase.
Both Paris and Newcastle are dropping out of the top 8 on the final day.
Anatoly Trubin is forward. One last throw of the dice with Benfica. In it goes, right-footed. Good ball, the goalkeeper's there! He scored! One of the most extraordinary Champions League moments. Anatoly Trubin has scored for Benfica, and Jose Mourinho knows that is enough to put them through.
For me, everything is déjà vu, but this one is the first time.
The fight to reach the last 16 in Europe's elite club competition continues tonight.
Hauger's early ball, Evian arriving and scoring! It's magic in Milan for Bodo Glimt.
This is pure knockout football. It's end-to-end, it's fascinating. That's what the Champions League is made for.
And it's a place in the quarterfinals for Sporting, and they join the extraordinary list of clubs to have come from a 3-goal deficit and to go through. Luis Figo is there in the stand. He can barely believe it.
Now, just 8 teams remain. The quarterfinals kick off tonight here on Matchday Live.
Elise on the attack. Beautiful curling shot. Now that's the way to win it.
Atletico fans desperate for the final whistle. Diego Simeone desperate for the final whistle, which arrives. And Atletico Madrid are through to the semi-finals.
Games certainly do not get much bigger than this in world football.
Dembele on the left side of the penalty. He shows, he scores. It's 5 now for the European champions. Luis Diaz inside the penalty area. Turns and scores. Sensational goal by Luis Diaz. This has been a Champions League epic.
I think the best match I've ever managed as a coach.
He goes for a goal. It's a brilliant save. It's turned in by Saka. The whistle goes. And for only the second time, Arsenal are in the Champions League final. 3 Paris players are up there. Big chance, 1-0. Smacked in by Ousmane Dembele. What a start for Paris. The holders have seen off Bayern to set up a showdown with Arsenal.
It has been quite a season, and when you add in Kai Havertz's goal in this final, 654 have been scored throughout this competition. As I mentioned, there have been lots of stories written and rewritten this year. Anything that stands out for you in particular, Kev?
I loved Bodo Glimt's run. The joy they played with, the quality they played with, the pace they played with. They just ripped up the rule book. You know, they weren't even in season for the knockout part of it. They weren't even playing league football, and they were able to upend the orthodoxy. They were tremendous. Karabakh, who were able to get to the knockout phase. We had that incredible goal from Anatoly Trubin, the Benfica goalkeeper, to get the goal against Real Madrid that took them through. So yeah, I think we've had some really great stories of progression from clubs, and just that game between Bayern and Paris, 5-4, phenomenal. Probably the most aesthetically pleasing game I've ever seen. Just amazing from start to finish.
Yeah, that was one all-out attack, and it was fabulous, quite breathless. How they must have felt, I don't know, but we were exhausted just watching it.
Yeah, the tension all the way through was crazy. It was a wonderful game, and some great defending as well, because you're right, it was all-out attack, but there was some world-class defending in there as well. Otherwise, it might have been 10-9.
Yeah. You mentioned, obviously, the feats of Bodo Glimt, and also there was Kairat Almaty, Union Saint-Gilloise and Paphos, who were first-time Champions League appearance makers. So again, new stories having to be written by these sides, which is just fabulous to see that the opportunities are opening up.
Yeah, and Paphos didn't look out of place, I have to say. I thought they competed really well. Yeah, they got chasing by a couple of teams, and you'd expect that, but they were in the mix to make progress. So great effort from them, and as I say, teams like Karabakh, like Bodo Glimt, will have really learnt a lot. Sporting, I mean, getting as far as they did. I know they're a big hitter in Portugal, but in this competition, that was a really great run for them.
Yeah, and you mentioned that goalkeeper, Anatoly Trubin, who scored in the 98th minute with a header, which meant, as you rightly say, Benfica qualified on the final day into the playoffs by goal difference. It ousted Marseille as a result. Again, a fabulous story that has now been retold plenty of times.
Well, I think it's incredible as well is that by their own admission, they weren't sure that they didn't need it, and then suddenly they realise we need another goal. A win's not enough.
That's the beauty
So
of it.
Suddenly he goes charging up into the penalty area. And it's a proper centre-forwards header as well. It's not just some glance, or it's not just some cross that's hit him. He's probably soared and headed that past the goalkeeper. So phenomenal moment, great effort from Benfica.
And that is why the league phase is just so exciting, because it goes through right until that final day when you've got a top 8, and then obviously the teams up to 24th spot all looking to try and claim a spot in those playoffs.
It's not easy to find something new in football, but I think we have. I think with that match day 8, I think we have, because all the calculations, all of the things that can change, all the twists, and what you always get is this moment where one team is able to go through right at the end, and obviously the dramatic part of that is one team then doesn't go through. So that's heartbreak for them. So you get two lots of drama going on at the same time. Absolutely incredible, and that's been the case since this league phase came into operation.
So it's all built up to this final, and second half commentary of this year's Champions League final between Paris and Arsenal is to come. But if you're just joining us, here's the key moment from the first half.
Havertz has history, of course, in this competition, and here he comes with space to stride into, and Saka in support, takes the shot on and scores. 5 minutes in, and Arsenal make the early breakthrough in Budapest, and it's Kai Havertz in the Champions League final again. He's given Arsenal the early advantage in this one. He took it brilliantly. He had room in which to work, and he's exploited it in sensational style. It's Paris 0, Arsenal 1.
So it's just the one goal in it, but another exciting 45 minutes to come. Paris have made their way out onto the pitch. They're waiting for Arsenal then to make their way out too. But it's time for me to hand over then for this second half here on UEFA.com, the official Champions League app, and in North America on Sirius XM FC. Let's rejoin our commentary team of European football expert Kevin Hatchard and Phil Blacker.
Thanks, Natalie. Something of a statement of intent maybe from Paris and Luis Enrique, the side out there first. Good minute or so before Arsenal, who are just on their way from the tunnel as we speak. And the challenge has been laid down by the Gunners. Got their early goal, given themselves something to work with. Certainly they've kept Paris at arm's length impressively, Kev, since then. But that task is surely only going to become even tougher from here as this game goes on, if the situation stays as it is.
Yeah, I think if you're Arsenal, you try and take it in chunks and you try and get through this second half, because you know what's coming. If you keep it at 1-0, Paris have to take more risks. They have to commit more men forward. I mean, they're doing that anyway, but when you then have to do it at pace and there's a bit more chaos about it and you haven't got that rest defence, which is the structure you're in when you lose the ball, Arsenal have players who can exploit that. You know, we've seen Havertz race away from them. Saka, we know, has pace. Trossard can shift as well. You've got Declan Rice who can surge through midfield. They've got the tools to hurt Paris on the counter. So it's about Paris gradually just turning up that risk and turning up that tempo without giving Arsenal the chance to hit them on the counter. That's the balance that Paris have to try and strike.
Well, Arsenal making their way out onto the field now. Touched on it at half-time, the strength in depth of the Paris bench, the options that Luis Enrique has, but Mikel Arteta too, just looking at the team sheet now. Maybe that the difference between Arsenal of a year ago and this season is the strength that they have in reserve. If they need to bring on a player to try and exploit spaces, the likes of Gabriel Jesus, Eze, Martinelli, what a season he's had in this competition, Gyökeres, Madueke, all amongst the Arsenal substitutes.
Yeah, that's what I think we'll see. I think we'll see Martinelli at some stage. I think we'll probably see Gyökeres as well, because they do have that pace and that willingness to run in behind.
Here we go then, the second half getting underway at the Puskás Arena in Budapest. Paris Saint-Germain 0, Arsenal 1. Paris all in the blue will play in this second half as we look at it from left to right against the Gunners in the famous red and white, who lead courtesy of that Kai Havertz goal in the 6th minute of the match. Here come Paris then, looking to launch their first attack of the second half with Kvaratskhelia able to get the touch to it, and then the low cross is delivered from Fabian Ruiz over there. It's cleared back in his direction. He will battle for the bouncing ball against Christian Mosquera, and out of play it goes. Just gives me a chance to remind you of how they're lining up, with no changes made by either boss at half-time. Safonov, Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Nuno Mendes, the back four for Paris Saint-Germain. João Neves, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz in midfield, Desiré Doué, Kvaratskhelia wide of Dembele, although he too has often been playing wide fairly frequently. Now the referee, I think, is unhappy at how long Christian Mosquera was taking over the throw-in there, so has reached for his yellow card as Daniel Siepert produced the first booking of the game just a minute in to the second half. Mosquera, the recently capped Spanish international, is the recipient of the game's first booking, and that's also maybe a statement from Daniel Siepert that he will take no nonsense.
Yeah, there were a couple of warnings in the first half, actually, just trying to hurry Arsenal along a bit, and Mosquera just took too long there. And we saw just before the end of the first half, didn't we, Bukayo Saka taking too long to take the corner, and the referee ending the half before Arsenal could take it.
And declined him the opportunity to deliver it in the end. So Mosquera into the book. Arsenal advance with Saliba, Desiré Doué in something of a role reversal. Commits to the challenge and concedes the free kick.
It's brilliant from Saliba. He moves so smoothly with the ball. He's done that a few times now, just bursting out of that defensive line, forcing Doué to come across and foul him. And what it does is it gets Arsenal up the pitch, gives them a bit of a breather, but more importantly, a chance to take a set play.
Declan Rice does take that free kick, and he plays it wide left for Leandro Trossard. Level with the edge of the Paris penalty area, back for Rice to swing that in with his right boot. And it's cleared back in his direction, where he was in the space just to nod it down, divert it back into the path of the Belgian Leandro Trossard. Arsenal revert to Miles Lewis-Skelly on the halfway line, and he will loft it left-footed towards Trossard again. Arsenal with Raya in goal, Mosquera, Saliba, Gabriel and Nkapie the back four. Rice and Lewis-Skelly with Ødegaard in midfield, Saka and Trossard wide of Kai Havertz, who has it here on the Arsenal left. His attempted cross cut out by Hakimi, comes for Trossard though, and Arsenal seeing a little bit more of the ball. It's a longer period of possession than perhaps we've seen since the early stages of the game. Although Martin Ødegaard, soon as I say that, has now been dispossessed. Paris got back to him 2-1, but couldn't profit from it. They have to settle for the throw taken on the halfway line by Fabian Ruiz, and they go all the way back to Safonov in goal, showing no ill effects, thankfully, from the injury scare that he suffered after that prolonged period of treatment in the first half. So no changes by either at half-time, no great surprise in that, but if it stays this way for too much longer, Kev, you'd imagine Luis Enrique might try and do something about it.
Yeah, I think the personnel's okay. I think it's just at the moment, the rotations that they have, the fluidity they have, it melts so many opposition defences, but this Arsenal team just isn't melting.
It's a lovely run from Vitinha, and he has actually found Nuno Mendes, who gets on the end of that and tried to return it back towards Vitinha, just bounced away from him. Did come at him quickly. He was outnumbered by Arsenal players on the edge of their own penalty area. They can clear it away. Kai Havertz goes down, but no free kick. And back come Paris Saint-Germain again with Desiré Doué on their left-hand side with the right-footed cross, but a bit too much on it. Misses out those in the middle. Dembele on the other side can't quite reach it. But 4 minutes into the second half, and we've seen plenty of action already at either end.
Yeah, Luis Enrique, I think just calm that down. You don't have to play that big switch there that sailed out of play. But a few moments ago, as you say, it was a nice little interchange between Nuno Mendes and Vitinha, but it was just a little bit too tight, a little bit too much force on the pass that he couldn't quite control it. But they did manage to make ground there and did manage to open up a seam in that Arsenal rearguard, which they haven't been able to do very often. Just going back to the previous point, I think, as I say, I think at the moment the actual personnel is fine. It's just about maybe taking a few more risks in possession. Can we go one-on-one with the player? Can we force them to make the challenge? Can we open up that space? Because at the moment it's just a little safe and a little slow from them. They're capable of more, and they know that.
So often as games go on, they find a way, but rarely, I guess, if they come up against a defence of this sort of quality. It's going to be fascinating, isn't it, to see if the top scorers can breach the best defence. The challenge laid down, one that Paris are attempting to embrace here. Ousmane Dembele, wide on the right-hand side, is dispossessed by Nkapie, who stood his ground, got his foot in, and is able to clear it to halfway.
He's been terrific so far, Phil. Absolutely vindicated the choice that Mikel Arteta made, because he's been so aggressive. There was a moment really early in the half where the ball got played to Dembele on the right wing. Nkapie came from nowhere and chased him all the way back to the edge of his own penalty area. That's the kind of aggression he's shown so far, and that is him. You know, that is classic Nkapie. I've seen it when he won the double with Bayer Leverkusen. He's aggressive, he's physical, and he knows when to jump out from that left-back position.
Further aggression shown a moment ago at the other end of the field. He concedes the free kick for the foul on Achraf Hakimi, level with the edge of the Paris penalty area, but showing again that energy, that desire to get there and put himself in that position. So much ground that he has covered so far. A key component of what's been an excellent collective Arsenal display thus far. 6 minutes into the second half in the UEFA Champions League final in Budapest. On UEFA Champions League matchday live. Paris 0, Arsenal 1. Havertz's early goal still separates them, as Paris look to take the throw here on their right-hand side with João Neves just looking for some options. Goes back down the line in the end to Fabian Ruiz, but the referee not happy with how the throw was taken. A decision applauded by Mikel Arteta in the edge of his technical area there, because it's now gone the other way.
Yeah, Arsenal were on that line like
they were
to a man. And they're right as well. I think it was a foul throw.
David Raya launches it long, and it goes from one goalkeeper to the other, actually, because Safonov comes outside of his penalty area. The Paris keeper all in the green to meet that first with his head and nudge it away from trouble.
They've done that a fair bit, Phil. You know, they've gone down the middle over the top. They've been really direct at times. Now, they know Havertz is decent in the air, so you know you can try and find him. We've seen that a lot, just that long ball down the middle, and it just releases a bit of pressure. It's not the most cultured thing, but it works.
Very deliberate tactic, it would appear.
They're trying to drop it into that space, I think, and just let Havertz fight for it. And if it sails over his head, that's fine, because you've given yourself a few seconds to get set. So that's absolutely fine. And when you've got Havertz there, you can do that because he can challenge.
One of the little tweaks, maybe, that Mikel Arteta was hinting at, having watched back the semi-final between these sides last season when Paris did win both legs of that, although Arsenal were victors at home in the league stage. 3 of the 7 previous meetings between these clubs all came in this competition last season. Those 2 wins in the semi-finals for Paris were their first 2 against the Gunners. Somewhat remarkable, actually. This is the first major UEFA competition final between clubs from England and France, and it's developing into quite the spectacle. Arsenal looking to become the 7th English winners of the competition, but under pressure here. João Neves on the edge of the penalty area, couldn't quite pick the pass. Saka scrapping for it. Arsenal are able to come clear with it, actually, are they? Martin Ødegaard was on the move, but his progress has been halted by the referee's whistle, with Desiree Doué still down, and that is because of the challenge on him by Saka, for which Bukayo Saka's just been shown a yellow card.
Yeah, he's trying to help out, he's trying to fill in that central area, but Doué's done well to get to that ball first and just hold it. It's just there for him. He's trying to go in there. Doué gets there first, and what ends up happening is that Saka's momentum takes him over the top. It's not a dangerous challenge per se, but worthy of a yellow card because of the way that he went in. It's just because Doué gets there first, really. It's a ball that's there to be won, and it's Doué first and Saka second, and that's why, having committed to that, he picks up the yellow.